the president of Agri SA, Mr. Pierre Verkiel, the executive director of Agri SA, Mr. Christo van der Riede, members of the board and council of Agri SA, and members of Agri SA, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege for me to be addressing such an illustrious gathering of role players in the South African agricultural industry. Human beings have been on earth for thousands and tens of thousands, and some people would say hundreds of thousands of years. And in all of that long period of our existence on planet Earth, we have lived purely at the mercy of nature. It was believed for a very long time that the forces of nature are completely beyond the control of human beings. However, in the very recent past, if we take the long history of human beings on planet Earth, in the recent past, just over 200 years ago, with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, we started a process that began to impact on nature itself. And with the emissions of carbon dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere, we started a process of artificially manipulating, or rather causing, the planet to warm up. And this is a remarkable thing. In the past generations would never have been able to believe that such a thing was possible. But we now already have a massive accumulation of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which poses grave danger. Let me make bold and say that the environmental debate about climate change has by and large been settled, especially in the Republic of South Africa. We don't have that much difference of opinion on the environmental issues. And the environmental issues are the following: that there is an accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, that this accumulation of greenhouse gases is resulting in the change of climatic conditions, particularly the warming up of the planet, that if it continues this way, and if the planet warms up by more than 2 degrees Celsius, it will result in disastrous consequences for nature and for the well-being of human beings. The accumulation of greenhouse gases is largely a result of human activity. And that with the right strategies and the right will on the part of the human population, it is possible to stop and to reverse this trend. So this is the environmental argument, so to say, and it has by and large been settled. We don't have much debate about that. What we are faced with now, having settled the environmental argument, is how do we as a republic move from where we are currently to a low emissions economy? How do we produce our goods and services and live our lifestyles without an unnecessary, and at the same time avoid the emission of carbon dioxide, methane, and other dangerous gases? That is the debate. How do we do this? It's not there's no simple answer to this. And actually right now, nobody has the complete picture of how we will achieve that. But that is the challenge, and it's a huge challenge. Let me talk briefly about the commission which I am leading, and that is the Presidential Climate Commission. The Presidential Climate Commission is under the chairpersonship of President Ramaphosa, and I am the deputy chairperson of the commission. I'm responsible for the functioning of the Commission. The Executive Director of the Commission is Dr. Crispian Olver. This commission was established earlier this year, at the beginning of the year, in fact. And what it does is that it brings together the main social partners in South Africa. Members of the commission include 7 cabinet ministers. That includes all of the relevant ministers. It also includes the labor movement. All the 4 major trade union federations are represented on it. The business community and organized business serve on the commission, and so do the non-governmental organizations and various environmental organizations. This is an independent commission, the purpose of which is to ensure that the economic pathway from where we are to a low emissions economy is one that enjoys consensus and support of society as a whole. There would be no point in the government coming up with a wonderful strategy if it is not supported by business, not supported by labor, and by society in general. And therefore, this commission ensures that whatever the strategy is a South African strategy. So, and I'm pleased to say that in the short period of time of the Commission's existence, we have been able to ensure that there's a high degree of consensus on what we do. I feel reasonably confident that the South African agricultural sector will be able to develop methodologies and scientific innovation that would ensure that we do not get left behind when it comes to a low emissions trajectory. Just this week, the President, in his weekly letter from the desk of the President, this week decided to focus on climate change. And I'd like to quote very briefly from his letter. He says in the letter that many South Africans are already feeling the effects of climate change through drought and flooding, which have an effect on their livelihoods. Several communities in Mpumalanga, for example, are affected by high levels of pollution, which increases respiratory illnesses and other diseases. Those who are dependent on the ocean for a living have already been seen depleted fish stocks amid changing weather patterns and changes in ocean temperature. There are broader economic risks, he goes on to say. As our trading partners pursue the goal of net zero carbon emissions, they are likely to increase restrictions on the import of goods produced using carbon-intensive energy. Because so much of our industry depends on coal-generated electricity, we are likely to find that the products we export to various countries face trade barriers, and in addition, consumers in those countries may be less willing to buy our products. The other economic risk is that investors will shy away from investing in fossil fuel-powered industries. Banks and financial institutions are already facing pressures from their shareholders not to finance enterprises that depend on fossil fuels to produce their products and services. All these emerging trends means that we need to act with urgency and ambition to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and undertake a transition to a low carbon economy. Many of our peer countries have already started migrating to low carbon economic dispensations. We, however, need to transition need a transition that is just, because there are several important sectors of our economy that will be negatively affected by such a transition, including agriculture, tourism, mining, energy, transport, manufacturing, and the biodiversity economy. He goes on later in his letter to say, we will be decommissioning and repurposing coal-fired power stations and investing in new low-carbon generation capacity, such as renewables. We will also pursue green industrialization, such as manufacturing using green technology and a shift to the production of electric vehicles. For while there are economic challenges and risks, there are huge economic opportunities that we must seize. South Africa is endowed with abundant resources that can be harnessed to open up new frontiers of investment and growth and build a new economy in areas such as green hydrogen. By pursuing these opportunities, we can ensure that our transition yields new innovative opportunities that will create new jobs. We are working together with different partners across society in mining towns in Mpumalanga to assess the potential impact of a move away from coal and ways to ensure that communities are protected against the risks and benefits from the opportunities presented by this transition. Those are the words of the president. So in my view, it is best that the agricultural industry in South Africa itself develops ways and means of moving towards a low emissions production methodologies, and that we remain competitive internationally. We cannot have a situation where our avocado exports come under challenge because other avocado producers are producing their avocados with lower greenhouse gas emissions than we are. And therefore, it is best that we are ahead of the curve, that we do not wait for these tariff barriers to be imposed, but rather we should be preemptive. And I think that we can do it as South African agriculture. And the reason for that is because our agriculturalists over the many generations have been highly innovative and have been leading farming practices even on a global basis. And here's an opportunity for us to do the same. I want to just, at the last meeting of the Presidential Climate Commission, I'd invited the Chief Executive Officer of Anglo-American South Africa, Mr. Mark Kutifani, to address the Commission. He is, as you know, Anglo-American is a large global mining company, and it is the largest mining company in South Africa. And he said that Anglo-American is aiming to be net zero by the year 2040. In other words, all their mining operations will become net zero. They will not be emitting any more emissions, net emissions into the atmosphere. This is a remarkable challenge that Anglo-American has set for itself. But as you know, like in agriculture, our mining industry has always been very sophisticated. And so he puts forward a believable story. I think we need something similar from agriculture. I had the good fortune of looking at and perusing Agri SA's draft mandated position on climate change, which I understand will be under discussion at this Congress. I am rather impressed by that draft. I could not find anything in the draft mandated position of Agri SA on climate change, which I disagree with. In fact, I agreed with all of the statements that are made in there. There's a very, very clear commitment that change is needed. There's a clear commitment to the environment. At the same time, the position does make mention of the fact that it's complicated and it's not something that can be done overnight. And we have to take into account that there are businesses and there are jobs that are involved. And we cannot move to a low transition economy in a manner that's going to destroy jobs and destroy the current agricultural businesses. So I agree with that very much, and I look forward to the outcome of your discussions. I want to say one more thing, that on the Presidential Climate Commission, we have business represented. And I know that the agricultural sector, Agri SA and the agricultural sector generally is represented indirectly through the business, organized business. But I do hope that in the not too distant future, it will be possible for me to find a way of integrating and involving the agricultural sector more directly in the discussions of the Presidential Climate Commission and broaden the membership of the Commission. So that's something that I'm applying my mind to. And because I think that the agricultural sector is one of the most important when it comes to natural resources and in particular climate change. I would like to conclude once again with the words of the President from his letter on climate change issued this week. The climate transition is something that affects every South African, and we all need to be part of its design and implementation. We have undertaken widespread consultation, and there is broad support among social partners for an ambitious, realistic, and most importantly, a just transition. Our migration to a decarbonized economy is dependent on crafting a just transition that will not only meet our social obligations to our people, but also enable our economy to move forward on a much higher trajectory. We have to act now if we are to achieve sustainable and inclusive growth, secure the health and well-being of our people, and safeguard the future of our planet. Thank you very much.